So we're gonna continue on. Now, looking at the house structure, we almost have the main shape done. So we'll focus on the terrain, ground, the landscape. So my idea is I'm going to add subdivision to the terrain, so we have more grips on it, more polygons for us to add details, or splitting around 10 on each side, because it's square. So when I split 10 to 10, I should be able to have on this one, split again, I'll be able to have about 100, so it's not 100, it's 100 polygons here. So then I can start to modify the shape a bit. So I'm starting with the side view. What I do is I'm using the below here to drag it down, so there's a little bit thickness. But in this case, I'm trying to create thickness. I will do an extrude to add on the one more line, one more layer, so I can modify the shape on the edges. You can see from here, with that extra line in the middle, then the edges I can actually use the vertices to modify the shape a bit. So it's just to kind of create that organic feel, the organic look on the terrain. So terrain is not supposed to be one straight line, but you can modify that like that, something like this. So look for the side, looks like a bit organic. So of course we can actually further tweak individually to see that some of the line gonna make sure it's not straight lines, or we want to create that organic feel. Some of might make it push it a bit more larger, so it's more obvious of the organic shape feel. Okay, so this over here, do the same for left and right. Of course, if you're using side view, the benefit is actually you're tweaking one direction, and it means you have both sides. You actually, if the same axis, you actually can tweak left and right together, or front and back together. That was done. Now we also want to create that little bit bevelness, okay, on the edges, so it's not hard shape like one straight line like that. So we want to have a little bit round. So I deleted the previous line, so because I think, and I want to use the bevel instead of adding the one extra lines. Then with these edges, I choose the edges, the line, and then just choose bevel, and I choose the number to test out the number. So whenever you test out a number, you can actually undo and test again. But in this case, I think 0.5 was actually fine. It's just nice enough to get the organic feel. Then I'll soften the edges, and I get very nice terrain landscape like this. Okay, so the next thing, let's cut a line to make a road sign, a road instead. Gotta choose a line, add a road line. So over here and here. In this case, I probably need to tweak the road a bit. So when using the top view, the good is, because if you're trying to tweak the shape from the top view, it's much easier that way, rather than try to use perspective. So they make use of different camera angle with modeling, and that way you can continue to model. Something like that. Gonna get the organic road feel. And of course, the moment the house is actually kind of cutting across the street, we'll probably change that in a while. Okay, wait. So now got something like organic shape like that. So it's a road. Okay. Something like that. And then I'm gonna choose the line in the middle to kind of create that pavement road. So what do you I am going to, let's see, push it down a bit or push it up, either way. Pushing it down to create this kind of road then. And so you have to fix that irregularity when you push it down. Get something like that. Yeah, I'm using software edges will be too soft already. So I'm gonna use the soften hardening just to set an angle. So 30's angle is quite good to get a hard shape on certain angles of polygons, which is 2 vertices is 30 degrees, then you move a bit, you'll be hardened a bit. So of course I think this one, I think it's supposed to be not so inwards, so I push it back out again, check the setting. Okay, and in fact actually is now we take the opportunity to move the house. So don't be afraid with times when you're modeling, we gotta adjust the location. So this one's the issue, right? Because this one is on access station, you have to push it back to roll. So this is a lot of time you check on the move that the axis you're using should be the direction or the axis orientation that you are looking for to push. So I'm looking here at the glass foliage. So these are very simple glass foliages. So we're looking at low poly to mid poly again. So in a sense, this is actually more towards low poly. So we actually can create grasses just by using a plane. So I'm using a plane now and get the first plane done first. Okay, so the first plane is just a triangle. So probably put two lines, and then because I'll make it 90 degree. And I'm just going to collapse this one, merge to center. Okay, so I got this triangle, and this one vertices I'm putting a bit there. Okay, so now I have this grass, and let's try to put the pivot. So snap the grid first, put the pivot to the bottom, so easy for us to kind of like remember to not put it on the floor. Okay, so the grass might be too big, so I have to scale it down. So it's pretty cheap, and this is about 2 polygon face only. So what it does is actually with this kind of cheap foliages, right, you can try to apply the rule of 3 where you duplicate. Every time you duplicate, you make a cluster of 3. So you adjust the cluster of 3, then you duplicate 3 more, and then you rotate again, and then you move around or rotate the design a bit. So this here I have 6 of them. I'm going to just rotate, or maybe I'm using, let's see, I'm combining first, and I think rather than rotate, I just use the vertices to tweak because it's just very low poly. I'll teach some of the grass to be higher, some to be lower. Okay, so we got a design. So this is actually a cluster set of 6 grass. So I'll duplicate this cluster. Okay, you can combine them, move them around. So that way, let's do a design first. To remember, look at reference pictures, like if you want the grass to grow organically, yoga skin, you can actually choose the previous 2 sets of cluster to duplicate, so you can actually get any cluster, combine them. Okay, another more, I get 3 clusters here. So we have a set of design, 1 set, then 2 set, has 3 set of cluster. Then we can choose to separate them. We can separate them and move them around again. When you separate, the pivot point will be off, so you have to use the alternate to center pivot again. So we actually can modify this cluster. Okay, this cluster we can modify it. So this approach we actually create grass design very fast. This one's not separated so easy. So you can see I got the front houses, the front area roughly set up already. Gotta put more grass. Okay, so I'll separate again. So say whenever I separate, I will have to center pivot because the pivot point is off. And I'll just move them around. Okay, fantastic. So now what I will do is I'll take the whole cluster and duplicate it to put it behind. So then I can now rotate a bit, so rotation will randomize the design, and then I take this opportunity to move around the design of the cluster. So it's kind of save our job a bit because we don't need to plant one by one again, but rather we just duplicate the whole set and maneuver around. So that's the trick of trying to work more effectively. Okay, move them around. Great. Something like that. Okay, let's put it here. So duplicate this one, put here. This area, my references the examples that have a bicycle there, because the bicycle is one of the props that we can actually make later on. The focus on getting the main house area done first. The foliage just is kind of early to do, but I kind of like to do the simple one first because that way I can choose design and composition be much better. So it depends on some people do it last, but yeah, it's really a choice that you can actually do it first. We can get the space first, so we know what to decorate. In case you're not looking at an example, but if you want to decorate things fast and get a result early on, I think creating this kind of simple items and blocking the shape first is probably a good idea. So we don't need to wait until the last minute to do that. So I'm not trying to copy exactly, but kind of reference that to create the idea. Great, fantastic. Now those, okay, there's a just okay. So I'm looking here the road payment again. I'm mentioning here was rather than is inwards, should be outward. So I'm gonna shift again, create it a little bit, then up, and then from side view fix the vertices that looks to the way off. So just do all the way back. Check something like that. There you go. So now almost done already. Okay, fantastic. Save. Okay, tweak a bit more. Okay, so almost checking. So far so good. I think roughly the main idea you can see we're missing up the rooftop and also the other items.